All right, so good afternoon to members of the public and those that are tuned in for our swearing-in ceremony. We will begin that process and start with our board members. We're going to go in our order of our districts and start with District 1 and move through District 9. So that means first up is Board Member Heather Scott, representing District 1. Mr. Scott, joining us this afternoon to help with the swearing-in ceremony is Associate Justice Michael R. Morgan. Michael Rivers Morgan is an Associate Justice on the North Carolina Supreme Court. He was elected to the court in 2016. Prior to being elected to the North Carolina Supreme Court, Judge Morgan was a Superior Court judge in the North Carolina 10th Judicial District of the 3rd Division of the Superior Court, North Carolina, serving Wake County. He received his Juris Doctorate from North Carolina Central University School of Law and completed his undergraduate at Duke University with the Bachelor of Arts in History and Sociology. So welcome, Associate Justice Morgan. We thank you for being here and appreciate you taking the time out of what we know is a busy schedule to administer the oath to all 9 board members this afternoon. So thank you for being here. I'll turn the program over to you.
Chairman Sutton, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be able to serve the Wake County School Board and citizens of Wake County, and certainly have this opportunity at this time to administer the oath of office to one of the board members, Heather Scott. Ma'am, are you ready to take your oath?
I am.
You're surrounded by your beautiful family, and they're holding the Bible for you. I'll say all the words of your oath. Please repeat after me. I, Heather L. Scott,
I, Heather L. Scott,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and
the
maintain
Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as a member of
as a member of
the Wake County Board of Education.
the Wake County Board of Education.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Board Member Scott, as you lower your hand, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's my honor. Thank you. Congratulations, family.
Thank you. So if you want to wait right over here, family, I just wanted to say thank you to the community. Thank you to those of you who expressed your support throughout the campaign. It has been an honor to serve on this board, to represent District 1 while serving all of Wake County for the last 2 years, and I will serve you as well as I can for these next 2 years. Thank you again for your support of public education. Thank you to all of our educators, to our families who have been working so hard to provide the best education for our students in the most uncertain and difficult times during COVID. And certainly we look forward to working together. We are in this together and will be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board Member Scott. All right, next up is Board Member Monica Johnson-Hostler. She is representing District 2.
You want it now?
Yeah.
Thank you. How you doing? Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
Ma'am, as you stand surrounded by your wonderful family to receive the oath of office as they hold the Bible for you, are you ready to take your oath?
Yes, I am.
I will say the words of your oath with your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, and repeat after me. I, Monica Johnson-Hostler,
I, Monica Johnson-Hostler,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and
the
laws
Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and
of the
laws
state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
my duties
my duties
as a member of
as a member of
the Wake County Board of Education.
the Wake County Board of Education.
So help me God.
So help me God.
As you lower your hand, School Board Member Johnson-Hostler, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, family.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge Justice Morgan. Thank you to my colleagues, Chair Sutton and Vice Chair Cash and Superintendent Moore, and for all the voters who entrusted their votes and trust into me again to represent District 2. It is my honor and pleasure to have that honor bestowed and trust in me as we all continue to go through the uncharted waters of a pandemic. I would certainly say that we could not have done any of the work that we've done as a school board without our community, both those who have given us their advice, suggestions, even the ones that we've not necessarily all agreed with. Everyone's opinion and recommendations are truly what makes Wake County unique, and I'm extremely appreciative to be able to represent District 2 on the Wake County School Board again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson-Hostler. Next up is Board Member Roxy Cash, representing District 3. She is joined by her family this evening.
Yes, a couple of the committee. The faithful ones came with me.
Okay, I'll take your oath. Thank you.
You both have it.
And ma'am, as you're surrounded by your beautiful family, if you're ready to take your oath with your left hand on the Bible, right hand raised, I'll say the words of your oath. Please repeat them after me. I, Roxy Cash,
I, Roxy Cash,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and
and
laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of North Carolina,
of the State of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
my duties
my duties
as a member of
as a member of
the Wake County Board of Education.
the Wake County Board of Education.
So help me God.
So help me God.
As you lower your hands, School Board Member Cash, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So I want to, first of all, thank my family for being here and those that are not here that support me. It's not easy to support their mother doing this on many times. So I have great children, and I appreciate that they're here. I have great grandchildren that will be a product of the Wake County Public Schools and some of our other schools in North Carolina and South Carolina. And I appreciate the support of my constituency. I love my district. I love the state of North Carolina. I love the county of Wake County's public schools. I've been a public school supporter for a long time, and it's something that I hope to do for a long time. But so I thank everybody that's here with me tonight and everybody that's out there. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Best wishes. Congratulations, family.
Thank you, Board Member Cash. And I'll be up next representing District 4.
Sir, as you step in position, accompanied as you are, as I have her to hold the Bible on your behalf, are you ready to take your oath?
Yes, I am.
All right, then I have you put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, and please repeat the words of your oath after me. I, Keith A. Sutton,
I, Keith A. Sutton,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and
the
laws
Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and
and
laws
the Constitution and laws
of the State of North Carolina,
of the State of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
my duties
my duties
as a member of
as a member of
the Wake County Board of
the
Education.
Wake County Board of Education.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Board Member Sutton, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, congratulations.
Just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here once again before the citizens of Raleigh-Cary community and Wake County. This is now going into my, I think, 11th year. I've started serving in August of 2009 when I was appointed to this board, and I am just as excited today as I was then to continue to serve the residents and students and families of Wake County. So I'm going to thank my beautiful significant other for being here with me today, Dr. Anita Haskins. And again, thank you all for tuning in and being part of this auspicious occasion. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Jim.
Good to see you, Judge.
Our next board member is from District 5, Dr. Jim Martin.
And sir, as I look at your oath and see that you're surrounded by your wonderful family, I know it's your tradition, as I've had this privilege before, that you prefer to put your hand on the Constitution as you
Yes,
take
thank you.
your affirmation.
Thank you.
So with your left hand on the Constitution, right hand raised, I'll say the oath or affirmation for you. Repeat after me, please. I, Dr. James Martin,
I, Dr. James Martin,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and
of
laws
the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
my duties as a member
my duties as a member
of the Wake County Board of Education.
of the Wake County Board of Education.
And this is my solemn affirmation.
And this is my solemn affirmation.
As you lower your hand, School Board Member Martin, congratulations.
Thank you, Judge. And to the community, I too want to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to serve for an additional term. I need to extend a special thanks to my family, to my wife and son who are able to join me here, my daughter and son-in-law in Minnesota, who helped during the campaign, even from out of state. Thank you to the many citizens across the state of North Carolina, or across the Wake County and District 5 for your support, but really across Wake County. It has been an absolute honor to see the connection that I've been able to make with teachers and staff and students and families. And I will continue to do the best that I can to be an educator representing educators on the Board of Education. We've got a lot of work to do. I will continue to do my best to make the best decisions to make sure that we have quality education for every student in every school, and that we continue to work to make the profession of teaching the profession that it really needs to be. So again, thank you, and I look forward to another 2 years of work.
Congratulations. Congratulations, family.
Thank you.
All right, next up is District 6, represented by Christine Kushner.
Dean, it's my pleasure.
Good to
once
see
again.
you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you. I'll take your oath, sir. How are you?
Thank you, sir. It's my husband, David.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. As you prepare to take your oath, ma'am, I have you put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, as I do see you going to take an oath, and please repeat after me as your husband holds the Bible for you.
Thank you, sir.
I, Christine Kushner,
I, Christine Kushner,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and
the
laws
Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and
of the
laws
state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
my duties as a member
my duties as a member
of the Wake County Board of Education.
of the Wake County Board of Education.
So help me God.
So help me God.
School Board Member Kushner, as you lower your hand, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations to you too, sir.
And I want to say thank you to the District 6 residents and voters who, again, are giving me this honor of serving on the Wake County Board of Education. And I thank my children who teach me every day about being a parent and a community member in this community. And I want to thank my husband, David, who is my foundation in all that I do. It is an honor to serve on a school board, and these have been very difficult times. Since 2011, advocating for children, for teachers, for our staff, for our communities, 70% of whom do not have school-age children, but who rely on strong schools to have a strong community. It's been an honor, and these last few months have been very stressful and very difficult, but we stay focused on the needs of our children and our students, and I think we will make the best decisions possible as long as we all stay focused on them. So thank you for this opportunity to continue to serve.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Next up, representing District 7, Mr. Chris Hegarty and his family.
Good to see my friend Justice Moore. Chris, likewise for me. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you so much. It's an honor for me.
This is my son, Stephen Hegarty,
Hello, young man.
my daughter, Sydney Hegarty,
Hello, young lady.
and my wife, Tavy Clark.
And another young lady. It's an honor.
Thank you. It's great to see you. Oh,
Sure,
which do I give you?
likewise, yeah. Just going to take your oath.
Okay.
Yeah, I will give you that, though. I don't want to miss out. At this time, sir, with your preparation to take your oath, surrounded by your wonderful family, I have you, with your left hand on the Bible, raise your right.
Okay.
I'll say
Yeah,
the
let's
words
switch.
of your oath,
All right.
and I have you please repeat them after me. I, John Christopher Hegarty,
I, John Christopher Hegarty,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United
of
States
the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the State of North Carolina,
of the State of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
my duties
my duties
as a member of
as a member of
the Wake County Board of Education,
the Wake County Board of Education.
so help me God.
So help me God.
As you lower your hand, Wake County School Board Member Hegarty, congratulations,
Thank you, Justice Morgan.
and congratulations to the family.
Thank you all. So, consistent with our agreement, we will not have speeches. I will just say thank you to all of those voters who did choose to return me to office, and thank you to my family for giving me the permission. I would not be able to do this and be here and serve in this capacity without them and their support. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you for the honor, Chris. Congratulations, family.
All right, next up, representing District 8, Lindsay Mahaffey and her family.
I'll take you off. Thank you. Good to see everybody again. And as you place your left hand on the Constitution and surrounded by your beautiful family, I have you to say the oath after I repeat these words, and you'll say them as well. As everybody gathers, please repeat after me. I, Lindsay Mahaffey,
I, Lindsay Mahaffey,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the State of North Carolina,
of the State of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
my duties
as a member of
the Wake County Board of Education,
the Wake County Board of Education,
and this is my solemn oath.
and this is my solemn oath.
As you lower your hand, School Board Member Mahaffey, congratulations.
Thank you.
And congratulations to the family.
Thank you. And I just want to say thank you once again to the voters of District 8 for their continued support, and to the many volunteers that helped on this campaign, and especially to these four people next to me who were my biggest helpers and my biggest supporters during this time. Thank you.
That's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations to Board Member Mahaffey. And our newest Board Member elect representing District 9, Karen Carter.
Good to see you. I need your oath. It's in that folder. Thank you.
I'm sorry. No, that's fine.
And you can have one of them hold the Bible for you if you wish.
Okay.
Just watch your step.
or they can hold it jointly for you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, come on up. Watch your step. And right there. All right. Amy, come on up. You want to hold this for me?
Okay, and as you get a little closer to the microphone,
Okay.
so you can all be heard, and it's good to see your wonderful family, ma'am. It's an honor that you have a chance to administer your oath. As they hold the Bible for you, you put your left hand on it, please, and raise your right, and repeat the words of your oath, please, after me. I, Karen Carter,
I, Karen Carter,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and
of
laws
the United States
of the United
and
States
the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and
of the
laws
State of North Carolina,
of the State of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
my duties as a member
my duties as a member
of the Wake County Board of Education.
of the Wake County Board of Education.
So help me God.
So help me God.
As you lower your hands, School Board Member Carter, congratulations.
All right, thank you.
And congratulations, family.
All right, thank you. All right, watch your step.
Congratulations, Board Member Carter. And with that, that concludes swearing in ceremony. Again, I want to thank you, Justice Morgan, for being here with us again today. Always a pleasure to have you, and you're always here when we call us on that. Is greatly appreciate that. So at this time, we will adjourn this portion of our ceremony. We will recess briefly and then return with our formal board meeting opening shortly. Thank you very much. All right, good evening. I want to call this meeting to order. We are beginning now our Board of Education annual meeting, and then as we complete that meeting and take care of our official business as election of officers, we'll move into our regularly scheduled meeting. So I'll call this meeting to order. It is 6:18, calling the Wake County Board of Education annual meeting to order on December 1st. We do have a quorum. Everyone is here, as we have been practicing our meetings with social distance, but all 9 board members are here, and all those 9 board members have been duly installed and taken their oath as elected office. And so we have our usual cohort of here. Obviously, we are missing former board member Bill Fletcher, but we are joined today by our newest board member, Karen Carter. So welcome, Mrs. Carter, to District and representing District 9. Glad to have you here, and again, welcome aboard. And to all of you, again, my fellow colleagues that have been here, welcome to you all as well, and glad to be here as we embark on another 2-year term together to work to improve education for students, families, and our teachers and employees and all that are here, part of the Wake County public school system. And so with that, we will get started. And of course, don't want to leave out our superintendent, Kathy Moore, who is not elected but appointed by this board, but look forward to working with you for another 2 years, Superintendent Moore, as well. So if you all will stand with me and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And so in our usual and customary fashion, we begin our first meeting in December with 2 important orders of business. One is the swearing in of new board members, and then the second, again, is our annual meeting where we do the election of officers. And so at this time, we will move into that phase of our meeting with election of officers. Let me mention first, before we get started, that we have with us today, standing in for Mr. Blumberg, who is our normal attorney, Rob Malone, who's also with Farrington Smith, and he is with us and representing us today in the absence of Mr. Blumberg. So, Mr. Malone, welcome to you, a very familiar face that we all know. So thank you for being here. So at this time, what normally takes place is we declare all offices at this point are vacant and turn it over to Superintendent Moore, who, for those who don't know, the superintendent serves as secretary to the board. She will start the annual meeting process with the election of chair. Once the chair has been elected and installed, that chair will then take over the meeting or facilitate the rest of the meeting with the election of the vice chair, and then we will go into our regular meeting. So at this time, I would officially turn the gavel over to Superintendent Moore.
Thank you. In making nominations for the chair and vice chair, a second is not required. Once all nominations have been made, a motion is made to close the nominations, and the motion is seconded. Ballots will be handed out to each board member to vote and sign and pass to council, who will tabulate. Lacking a majority, a second vote and subsequent votes will be necessary. The ballots are a matter of public record. Are there nominations for the position of chair for the Wake County Board of Education? Ms. Kushner.
Superintendent Moore, I'd like to nominate Keith Sutton to continue to serve as chair.
Second.
Is there a motion to close nominations or any other nominations from the floor?
I make a motion to close nominations.
Second.
Thank you. Ballots? Oh, you have the ballots already. Okay.
And I think I'm going to collect the passing of the with all of the.
For Monica Johnson Hustler. So by 8-1, Mr. Sutton is the chair.
All right. Thank you to my colleagues for your continued support and the trust and diligence that you have placed in me to continue serving as chair during this important year that we close, but also an important year going forward as we continue to address the many challenges of our district that have been brought by the pandemic and other challenges. But I have full faith and confidence in this board, in our superintendent, and our staff that we will continue to meet those challenges head on and continue to be the great and one of the best, if not the best, public school system in the country, the Wake County Public School System. So thank you again to my colleagues. We'll move forward now with the second part of our annual meeting, and that is to elect the office of Vice Chair. So at this time, I will open the floor for nominations for Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, I move, excuse me, sorry. I nominate Lindsay Mahaffey for Vice Chair.
Second.
Okay, the name of Lindsay Mahaffey has been placed on the floor for Vice Chair. Are there any other nominations?
Mr. Chair, I nominate Roxy Cash to be Vice Chair.
Okay, name Roxy Cash has been placed into nomination for Vice Chair.
So I respectfully decline the nomination, and considering the part I played in the vote for chairmanship, I appreciate that, Dr. Martin, very much. I really do. So I think in the spirit of having a non-divisive vote this year, I would like to make a motion that nominations close.
Okay, got a motion and a second to close the nominations on the one said name of Lindsay Mahaffey. So with that, we'll tabulate the vote by written ballot. Thank you, sir.
There are 8 votes for Lindsay Mahaffey and 1 vote for Roxy Cash.
All right. Well, we'll welcome Ms. Lindsay Mahaffey as our new vice chair. Welcome, Ms. Mahaffey, and congratulations.
Thank you to my colleagues, and Ms. Cash, thank you.
We changed, don't we now?
If you like.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so now that we've taken care of that order of business, we will move into our regularly scheduled portion of the meeting. Now it's approximately 6:30, so we're just a little bit off schedule, but not too much. So with the quorum already been established and Pledge of Allegiance already done, we will move into our information items, and starting that with comments by our superintendent. So Superintendent Moore.
Good evening, and congratulations, Chair Sutton and Vice Chair Mahaffey. I'm pleased to announce that our annual Central Services Holiday Food Drive has once again been a success. How you say? What we affectionately call Wakesgiving usually includes donations of boxed and canned foods for the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. Health guidelines prevented such direct donations this year, so instead we established a goal of raising $8,000 to support this very worthy cause. I'm happy to share that Central Services employees met our goal, raising a total of $8,185. This will result in as many as 40,000 meals being provided to families in need. Thank you to our Central Services employees for once again modeling the giving spirit of the season, and to the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina for providing this much-needed service in our community. Lastly, congratulations to A.B. Combs Magnet Elementary Principal Muriel Summers, who recently received the Ralph Kimmel Award from the North Carolina Principals and Assistant Principals Association of the entire state. And this is the association's highest honor. The award is given to an educator who has made a significant contribution to the principal profession. Shirley Prince, the association's executive director, called Ms. Summers a role model for all principals, adding that she has played a significant role in the development and delivery of professional development programs for principals through NC PAPA. Of course, this is just the latest accolade for Ms. Summers, who was the 2016 WCPSS Principal of the Year. She has served as principal of A.B. Combs since 1998, where she first created the first leadership elementary school in the nation, modeled after Franklin Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This model has been adopted by more than 3,000 schools in 50 countries around the world. The program helps students develop cooperative relationships, a sense of personal responsibility, kindness, and good judgment. Combs was named the top magnet school in the nation in 2006 and in 2014 by the Magnet Schools of America. With the 2014 recognition, Combs became the first school to be named the top magnet school in the nation for a second time. That same year, Summers was awarded the William B. Friday Medal of Honor, one of the highest honors given to North Carolina educators. As I've said before, strong school leadership now is more important than ever. My thanks to Ms. Summers for her decades of service, not only to the Combs community, but also to her peers in Wake County and beyond. Congratulations, Muriel. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Superintendent Moore. And I'll be brief with my comments. But as we look over the next few weeks and months, we will see a number of transitions of power at all levels, at the local, state, and federal level. And so the first Tuesday of the month of December represents the peaceful transition, if you will, of power, maybe on a much smaller scale, but here for us also with the Wake County Board of Education. And so, again, I say welcome, congratulations to all of my colleagues as we move into this transition and embrace this transition, but not only this transition, but again, the challenges that are brought to us as we look forward into a new year, as we continue to deal with the pandemic, deal with funding challenges, and so many of the things that we wrestle with every week, every month on a policy level as this board. And so it's a weird sort of time. It's not the new school year, a new academic year, but represents a new year for us as elected officials as we embark on a new 2-year term. And so, again, I welcome, congratulate all of you, and look forward to working with each and every one of you as, again, we roll up our sleeves and get to work to continue to improve education and public education here in Wake County and across North Carolina. So, again, welcome to all of my colleagues, and again, thank you for choosing to be here and choosing to be a public servant. It is one of the highest callings, I believe, that any of us can respond to as a public servant. So, thank you. With that, I have to turn it over to our new Vice Chair again, Vice Chair Lindsay Mahaffey. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Sutton. And again, thank you and welcome back to my colleagues who I have had the pleasure of serving with throughout the past 4 years. Ms. Carter, welcome, and thank you for joining us. We know, given your career path, that you have a heart for students as we move forward, so we're looking forward to working with you. Looking back to the past, on November 22nd, I had the opportunity to attend a marker unveiling for a historical marker at the first Holly Springs Elementary School, which is now the W.E. Hunt Recreation Center. And the marker reads, Holly Springs Elementary School, a public school for black children, stood here from the 1920s until the early 1970s. It was one of the 5,000 schools envisioned by Booker T. Washington that philanthropist Julian Rosenwald helped build for black children in the South. Donations from black citizens helped pay construction costs. Former students recalled dedicated teachers who pushed them to learn despite the disparities of a segregated system. A brick building replaced the wood structure in 1951. Purchased in 1966 for a community center, it was named to honor William E. Hunt, a beloved teacher who was principal from 1945 to 1959. And many former students of this school came and spoke about their experiences. And the daughter of Principal Hunt, Ms. Ann Hunt-Smith, who was an educator herself in Wake County, came to share stories of her family and her father. And students from Middle Creek High School created a Holly Springs Rosenwald website, rosenwaldhse.wixsite.com/website. And we know that Dr. Martin has spearheaded the work of finding those schools in Wake County. So that work is going on through our municipalities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Mahaffey. So I'll start with our board members, and Ms. Carter, since you are here, our newest member, we'll start with you for any welcoming comments, and this is just an opportunity for board members to share any comments, any thoughts. We usually take this time in a few minutes to report on any visits or school visits that we may have made in the community. Obviously, you've not had a chance or opportunity to do that, but certainly the floor is yours to say what you wish.
All right, thank you. All right, Superintendent Moore, Chairman Sutton, and fellow members of the board, I am humbled to have a seat at the table. This past week, my heart has been both heavy and lifted up. Yesterday was my last day as a special education IA at Davis Drive Middle School after 9 years. As I told my students, "I'll see you later," I couldn't hold back the tears, but I knew it was time their voices were heard. To this board, I bring with me their determination, positivity, and perseverance. I will forever be thankful for them and for my SPED team. My work as a District 9 board representative is dedicated to my students and my 2 children. Their determination, their resilience, their adaptability, their courage and fearlessness, all of their unique and incredible traits encourage me to run and will be my motivation every day as I represent the educational needs of Wake County. I am deeply honored and inspired by the support of District 9 parents, teachers, staff, and citizens. Their continued commitment to our public school system is vital to the success of our students as we maneuver through these uncertain times together. I'm proud to be sitting here today, and I look forward to working collaboratively with all of you and our community in the best interest of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carter, and again, welcome. And to our outgoing Vice Chair, Mrs. Cash, let me come to you next, and just let me say again, thank you for your service over this past year, your assistance. It has been tremendous, as we all have been challenged with a heavy load, but that load has been made somewhat lighter, given your work and your assistance. So again, thank you for your service as Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair Sutton. I appreciate that. I enjoyed working with you a lot. You've straightened me out many times. Thank you. So I do appreciate also the fact that I'm here again, and District 3 put me back here again. I love my district. I said that during my oath. I mean, I love the people in my district, and I love everybody out there. And Wake County has a special, it's a good place to be. I don't know why I'm crying. I have no idea. So anyhow, I appreciate my kids coming tonight. They're always asking me why I do that. But one of the reasons I do want to say why is Superintendent Moore. I appreciate you talking about Muriel Summers. She is one of the reasons that I continue to do this, and hopefully we can do something in the leadership role at some point, a leadership academy, something like that. But I still believe in public ed. Thanks.
Thank you. Mrs. Kushner.
And I choked up earlier. This has been an emotional night because I think we all take this to heart, and that I think our community knows that these difficult decisions we've made in the last few months and my entire 9 years of being on this school board are things that are heartfelt and that they are deep in our souls, and that's why we're here serving the school system. And the great John Gilbert, a longtime District 5 board member, used to be asked, how can you sleep at night being on a school board? And he would say, I sleep like a baby because I focus on students. And to that I would say, I sleep like a baby too. I wake up every hour and I cry. But it truly is, I think the community has a board that deeply cares, and we have conflicting and complex demands on us from our community, from students, from parents, from families, from our wonderful educators who are working so hard. And right now, our schools need to be safe places for our students, both whether they're remote or if they're coming to our buildings. So know that this is a board that I think you've heard in our emotions, in our words, cares so deeply every day for every child, every day. and we'll continue that work in the coming 2 years. So congratulations to our new leadership and to all my colleagues for their re-elections back to this fabulous board. And as just another note of announcement, our policy committee, it will not be meeting this month. We're going to, and the staff will bring any policy issues to a work session if there's something that's urgent before January. So just to let you all know that.
Thank you, Ms. Kushner. Ms. Johnson-Hostler.
Thank you. Congratulations to all of my colleagues on all of our re-elections. It is certainly a pleasure, and as I said in my comments, an honor that's bestowed on me, just like you all, by the people who vote for us. But it is also an honor for the people who may not have voted for us, because we still communicate with them. And one of the things that I told a non-parent, but a taxpayer who sent me a message, who actually, we figured out, does not live in my district. She actually lives in Ms. Cash's district. But the thing that I said to her is, you know, it is our unique differences that allow us to make a decision, that our relationships don't have to be difficult because of the differences, but it allows us to open up our relationship and our views, and that's why we're all here. Regardless of what brought us here, every single one of us are dedicated to the 161,000 students and all of our educators, and that's from central services to our bus drivers, and as you all know, our cafeteria workers. I believe that from the moment our child touches anyone, that's Wake County Public School System, and we all have a responsibility to be educating our students. And so everything that we do at this board table is indeed educating our students. And so it is, again, a privilege to sit in this seat and an honor to serve with each of you, and certainly to serve with, and I, was talking to your assistant outside, Superintendent Moore, that I'm reminded each and every day, like Ms. Kushner, waking up in the middle of the night, so we both are sleeping like babies, but I'm also reminded that the leadership is not just dedicated in words, but dedicated in action, with decades of experience committed to Wake County Public Schools. And I think when we're elected, we get to say these things, and so it's important that we remind the public that our leadership is also the beautiful and long-term experience of our superintendent, which creates the entire team of 10. So I'm glad to be serving with each of you, including our superintendent. And I have one bit of great news, because we talk so much, or I talk so much about how our students are struggling with virtual school and asking the staff quite a bit of questions, but I got a great message earlier today from one of my third graders at Rand Road, who wrote an email to his principal, Ms. Jones, about his disagreement with her decision on using a different math app for teaching and learning. And then he created a Google form and sent it to all of his classmates to make a determination of should they use Dreambox or Prodigy, because his vote is for the previous. And I think the principal and I both agree we'd like for him to represent us if we're ever in need of an attorney. But as I was talking to the mom, it's an example that student would have never shared that experience with a teacher had they been in a classroom, because again, he's a third grader, and the way that we view our peers when we're little is they know everything. I mean, little people think their teachers know way more than their parents even know, even when their parents are educators. And so that to me is an example that I felt like lifting up with you all, because for me, it is the first shining example that I've received from a parent of what has become of a student in virtual learning that gave him the tools to not just talk to his principal about his concerns, but also share that with his peers, because it does remove for those who are introverted, the fear of talking in person. And so I thought I would share that with you all, because we need a little sunshine in the midst of cloudy days and the uncertainty that we're all going through. So I thought I would share that with you all. And again, thank you very much to Colin and his mom for sharing that story with me today.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson-Hostler. Mrs. Scott.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if you were going to keep zigzagging, so I'm like, I got to prepare that. But thank you so much. And I do congratulate my colleagues and welcome Karen Carter to the board. It is an honor to serve with you all, and I know that we will serve our community and county as strong as we can, because our students are our why, and we will definitely remember that. Just a quick announcement, on December 7th, District 1 is having a virtual board advisory council. I know I was actually reading a tweet the other day, and it said, what can we do to help our, principals. Like, what is it that you need? And the reply was, no more meetings, please. So I apologize for that, but it is an important one because we do have a change in leadership in our Board Advisory Council. The previous chair, who had been serving for many, many years, has still sort of been hanging on. Her youngest child out of 3 graduated this past spring, so we do need to transition that over. So that is next Monday. That's virtual. You can reach out to me or check social media for more information on how to get the invitation to that Google Meet. Thinking about serving our community and serving our students, I've shared, my colleagues have now heard me say it many, many times, so I will certainly spare you the story, but my why goes back to my first year as an educator and realizing the barriers that students have in front of them, and realizing that it's our job as adults to do everything we can to remove those barriers. And it's our job as board members to break down those barriers, be it through improving policy, through improving our budget, through improving transparency with communication, whatever it may be. And when the students are the center of our why, it's not a difficult job because you do the right thing. And serving public education, when that is your passion, it's sometimes you have to say things that some people don't like to hear, that make them a little uncomfortable. And I was reading today that a senator said the past year had seen a good effort to try to help North Carolina students during the pandemic, but it's been a wasted year. And to see those words and to know how hard our teachers have worked, Ms. Carter, you've been in the schools and you know the efforts that teachers have brought each and every day. And we know what our parents have been going through, following through again and again and again to help their children succeed, to help get their children on those Google Meets, to help get them back on track after lunch, to follow up on their assignments. We know here, as board members, we know just exactly how hard Superintendent Moore and her team have been working. And we know, as Ms. Kushner said, sleeping like a baby, meaning we do wake up every hour and wonder, what else could I be doing? That's not waste. That is effort because we care so deeply about public education. And the students are in the center of that building. And each of us have our own bricks that we bring to that building. And we have our different passions. But if they are all bricks for that building that is going to serve our students, and they may be a little different, but if they are all there with the students as our center, then they're the right bricks to bring. It's the right why, or the right thing to bring to the table, to this board table, into the conversations we have with colleagues and the conversations we have with our community members, our church members, our friends, our families, our political colleagues. We have to keep certain that the students are the center of our why. So I say to you, thank you, and it is an honor to keep doing that work, as I know you all passionately share, having that as the center of our value. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. And as you mentioned breaking barriers and talking about my zigzag, and my purpose or intent was to allow the ladies to go first, and I figured that our gentlemen would not mind bringing up the rear. But I'll just say that in a year where we've seen our first woman elected to the vice presidency, and already a record number of women elected, put into place as part of this incoming administration, it tickles my heart, honestly, to see women in leadership. And so I can say that as a girl dad, I know that the future is bright for my daughters. So for what that's worth. Anyway, Dr. Martin.
Thank you. I'll let my comments, as I've tried to make them the last few weeks, be a little more than thanks. First of all, thank you to all educators, whether it's in the classroom, in the principal's office, counseling offices, you name it. Thank you for what you do. It is a very heavy lift at any time, but it's a doubly heavy lift right now. Thank you for your continued effort. Thank you also to students and families. Engagement is, again, challenging during this time, but it's also an important time for learning. We all know that the virtual format is not ideal, although, as Ms. Johnson-Hassler noted, there are opportunities that can come out of situations. Basically, any tool can be useful depending on the job, and sometimes we have to look for what jobs make it useful. I think one of the most important things that I hope will come out of this for both educators and students is a better understanding of self-agency. Learning is not something that a teacher can do for a student. Teaching is not something that a curriculum can do for a teacher. What is necessary, whether at the curriculum level or the learning level, is to develop that self-agency, and the remote format requires that at a higher level than other formats do. But if we learn that self-agency at both the teaching and the learning level as we come out of this crisis, we all will be stronger for it. And finally, I will just want to give double congratulations to Ms. Summers, principal of Combs, one of the schools in my district. Ms. Summers is a leader among leaders. I have so enjoyed learning about and working with her and the Combs community. The Leader in Me model is that model of developing agency, learning how to address problems to learn rather than looking for the answer. It's starting with that foundation and building an agency, and that has been embodied by Ms. Summers and created through the school, so a very, very well-deserved award. And I, too, would like to thank the voters who reelected me. I look forward to serving for the next 2 years. We have important work ahead of us, and I will do the best I can to look at the information that is provided to me and make decisions that will strengthen schools, strengthen the education profession, and thereby strengthen our entire community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Mr. Hegarty.
Thank you, and congratulations, Chairman Sutton. Congratulations to our new Vice Chair, Ms. Mahaffey, on your leadership positions. I want to say a special thank you to Ms. Cash. I appreciate, you're handling the situation with grace there, and we appreciate everything you bring to the table. Special welcome to Ms. Carter. I know from being in that seat as the new member sometimes what it's like, and there'll be procedures and policies and customs that sometimes you just scratch your head and you wonder why we do something. Please ask, because sometimes it's something that has a clear answer and a clear explanation, and other times, you know what, maybe no one thought of it. So please, though you're new, do reach out, do ask questions, and please contribute as everyone else here at the board does. And again, special thanks to everyone who went, faced the voters, and then came back and rejoined us this year on the board. I don't want to play spoiler. I see it's an information item. I know people, if they look around, will see that a lot of us are wearing these pink masks, and I will leave that to staff to explain the pink masks. But I do want to use my comments to talk about cancer awareness, because this is a situation that's coming up. I am joining my colleagues in wearing a pink mask, but I'm also wearing a white ribbon. And the white ribbon is a symbol of awareness for lung cancer. I don't know how many people know someone who has been touched by lung cancer, who has survived lung cancer, or perhaps hasn't. In our family, we lost my wife's mother to lung cancer, who'd struggled, fought very hard, went into remission, but then had a relapse. And we lost her. Lung cancer is responsible, they say, for about more than 135,000 deaths in the United States, but funding for lung cancer research is among some of the lowest per death among the different kinds of cancer that are out there. So when there is an opportunity to talk about cancer, we do like to talk about it. Sometimes people just attribute it to smoking and other forms of personal choices, but it's not. It's something that can be passed down through genetics. It can be hereditary. It can come from environmental conditions that have nothing to do with individual behavior. So please be aware of the role that lung cancer plays in our society. And then also my tie is orange, because orange is the color for leukemia, lymphoma, and other blood cancers. And I have to say, I lost, sorry, I didn't mean to keep the trend here going, but I lost a very, very dear friend of mine a few weeks ago, Mr. Kevin LeCount, to his battle with leukemia that had been a battle of several years, cancer treatments, remissions, bone marrow transplants, different therapeutics. And then finally, when it came back, it was just too much. These are problems that we have in our society. They're more than problems. They're thieves. They steal our loved ones. They steal children. They steal parents. They break up our families. And, in the midst of everything going on with the current pandemic, please let's not forget all of those others out there who might be fighting cancer, and then the importance of the doctors treating cancer and the money that we spend on cancer research. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hegarty. So that concludes our board member comments at this time. Thank you all again for your thoughtful and heartfelt comments and remarks as well. That takes us to our approval of our meeting agenda. I do have one change that I would like to add to our agenda. I want to add to the closed session agenda an item to consider confidential student information protected under GS 115C-402 and the Family Education and Privacy Rights Act 20 U.S. Code 1232G. And so with that amendment to the agenda, if I can ask for a motion to approve tonight's agenda with that amendment.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. That takes us to our public comment item. Residents wishing to address the board may submit their comments or video by noon the day of the meeting at the link that can be found at www.wcpss.net. Due to capacity restrictions during the current COVID-19 pandemic, public comments are being accepted only in writing or by posting a video using the instructions on our website. The following citizens have submitted comments as part of our public comment portion of this evening's agenda. Their comments are linked on the same online agenda we are using for tonight's meeting. That agenda, as well as guidelines for those wishing to submit comments for future meetings, can be found at the school district's website, wcpss.net, under the tab labeled School Board. We have written comments from 6 members of the public. The topics and speakers whose comments are attached to this agenda are as follows: Beth Braswell, transgender status; Matt Gunnell's Title IX, harassment; Jeffrey Ablett, conflict resolution, team not provided; Carrie Bly, lack of math learning resources in WCPSS; Barb Anderson, November 23rd, student achievement meeting; and Kristen Beller, safe learning environments. That is our public comment list for tonight's public comment agenda. So please, when you have a moment, take a look at those items. As we move to the information item on our agenda, we have one item, and that is being presented by our Chief of Staff, Dr. Lord Gardner, with regard to WCPSS Turning Pink. Dr. Gardner.
Chair Sutton and members of the school board and Superintendent Moore, good evening. It is certainly a privilege to have this opportunity to highlight our partnership with the American Cancer Society and to launch our week-long campaign, WCPSS Turns Pink. I'm especially excited to see that this campaign that we're going to have this week coincides with today, Tuesday, December the 1st, that is designated as Giving Tuesday. Sadly, all of us know of an individual or family member who has been touched or impacted by cancer. This week during our campaign, WCPSS Turns Pink, we have the opportunity to collectively come together as a district, our students, our employees, and you, our school board, to show our support for the work that American Cancer Society does in our community and to show our support for these individuals and families. Throughout the week, we have the opportunity to wear pink as a symbol of support, as well as other colors, as Mr. Hegarty has highlighted tonight, that represent other different forms of cancer. We have the opportunity to participate in activities structured at the school to bring heightened awareness about the fight against cancer, and individuals can make a personal choice to contribute a donation to the American Cancer Society to support the work that that organization is doing in our community. Mr. Sutton, I know that you want to make some remarks about this campaign, so at this time I turn it over to you, and you are also going to introduce some special guests we have joining us from the American Cancer Society tonight. Board, thank you for your support tonight. I love your pink face coverings, as well as the pink that you're wearing in support of this campaign. Take care. Mr. Sutton?
Well, thank you, Dr. Gardner. And I won't say much. I'm just pleased. In full transparency, I serve on the board of the American Cancer Society of the Southeast region, which covers most of North Carolina from Charlotte to the East Coast. And so pleased to that the district chose to embark in or engage in the Real Men Wear Pink. That's sort of where we started. But obviously this has grown to something bigger. And so we're excited about that and the opportunity for the Wake County Public School system to show its support in the fight against cancer. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Representative Tracy Smith, who is the Senior Community Development Manager for the American Cancer Society. Tracy?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Mr. Sutton, and the entire board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. As Mr. Sutton said, my name is Tracy Smith, and I am a community manager with the American Cancer Society here in Central and Eastern North Carolina. And it is my pleasure to speak to you for a few minutes to share the mission and vision of the American Cancer Society. Next slide, please. So the American Cancer Society, we are a community-based health organization dedicated to eliminating cancer as a major health issue. Our vision is a world free from pain and suffering of cancer, and our purpose is to achieve it through partnerships like we have with the Wake County School System. We're super excited about this opportunity. Next slide, please. Community partnerships amplify our mission and increase cancer awareness. It helps us to promote healthy living and to raise funds for cancer. We are so excited about the opportunity to partner with the school system. And we know this is the first time that you've had the opportunity to partner at this level, and we are so grateful that you made the decision to do so. Next slide, please. As you all know, and you've heard, and first let me say thank you to Mr. Hegarty for sharing your story. Cancer is a worthy opponent, to say the least, and it does not stop during a pandemic. COVID-19 has affected cancer patients, their resources, and access to care even more. There is not a room that you go into and you ask the question, do you know someone who's been diagnosed with cancer? Almost everybody's hands go up. Either they're a cancer survivor or they've been diagnosed with cancer themselves, or they know someone who's been diagnosed with cancer. And I am certain that out of the 20,000 team members that you have some survivors and caregivers amongst you. So again, we say thank you for the opportunity to partner with you. Next slide. So what does that mean? Today is Giving Tuesday, and COVID-19 has put a lot at risk right now, including how we fight cancer. How we fuel the fight has changed. And what's at risk for us right now is very frightening, particularly for cancer patients, for researchers, and for the health community, and for the health care of the community. That's why our Real Men Wear Pink movement is prepared to confront these risks, and together with you, we can make a difference. And we're glad to know that the Wake County Public School System is turning pink this week to help fight cancer. Next slide, please. So what can you do to help? As I said, today is Giving Tuesday. It's a global day of shared humanity and giving. It's our chance to bring together, to come together, and to give together to make good things happen. On this day and every day, the American Cancer Society is leading the fight for a world without cancer. We can get there, but only with the help of dedicated partners like you. So will you continue your fundraising today on Giving Tuesday and the rest of the week? And here's what you support when you give. You support research. Through life-saving research, we can better understand, prevent, and find treatments for cancer. You support spreading awareness. You help to prevent breast cancer, other cancers, and help us to find it at its earliest, most treatable stages. And when you give, you also provide assistance. We're able to be there for patients and their loved ones with essential resources throughout every step of their cancer journey. Now, we've created an easy way for all of you to give, and every bit helps. There is a giving page that has been created specifically for the Wake County Public School System, and we encourage and ask that you give today. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our mission with you, and we certainly look forward to seeing all that you guys will do at the end of the campaign this week. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share our mission with you this week.
So again, thank you, Tracy, for being with us. And again, we are so excited to see Wake County turn pink over the course of the week. So I ask all the men to get out your pink ties, bow ties, socks, and shirts and other things, and everyone to be able to participate and support cancer in the ways that you see fit and the way that you wish. Any comments or thoughts from any other board members at this time? Ms. Kushner.
Thank you, Chair Sutton. And I was very pleased to hear the emphasis on pain, because I think that's sometimes there's some toxic positivity around cancer. And to add to Mr. Hegarty, and not to be, 2 weeks ago we lost my mother-in-law to an abdominal cancer, and she was in a great deal of pain. And my husband is going through multiple myeloma, and every day he is in pain from the chemo drugs that he was on. He had no symptoms or symptoms from the blood cancer, but every day is in pain because of treatments of cancer. So it's, I'm just happy to see, I'm pleased and to see the support from the school system going toward this dreadful toxicity that we have of cancer. So thank you all for the support that my colleagues have given me through my family's connection, and I appreciate it. And have to just feel like the more we talk about it, the less alone we feel in the pain that cancer brings to our society. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you, Ms. Kushner, for sharing your story. Appreciate it. All right. So again, we'll continue moving forward and pushing through our agenda. We are now at the point of our information item where we hear from our superintendent regarding reopening updates. So, Superintendent Moore.
Thank you, Chair Sutton. As has been the practice for the last few meetings, I'll use this portion of the agenda to highlight items that we covered in the work session reopening update for the benefit of those members of the community who may not have been able to listen to the work session but are paying attention to the board meeting. Just some highlights. So one major calendar item that we want our community to be aware of, that we are making a proposed change for the 2021 second semester calendar for our multi-track year-round schools that are currently operating on a single-track 4 calendar. That's a mouthful. And the recommendation that we are making is to shorten one of the track out periods in that calendar at the end of the year in order to provide a longer break for our track 1 students and to support a longer time of out so they wouldn't be in school for so many weeks in a row, and our families and our teachers as well who are on track 1. That was proposed this evening. The board will be voting on it on December 15th. We welcome any feedback. We want to thank Dr. Benjamin from the ABC Science Collaborative who joined us today in our work session, really to highlight a couple of things. One is some work that the collaborative has done around the 12 principles for safer schools and how we operate in a pandemic. And he highlighted where those principles came from in terms of their research with, in particular, 11 districts that have been open since August that are part of the ABC Science Collaborative, and then provided some feedback on how WCPSS is implementing those 12 principles, and quite frankly, some glows and grows in those areas, which are important feedback for us. He also provided some information on how districts should handle COVID-19 clusters. This is something that is still in draft, and we're working on some alignment in some areas to make sure that it's ready to go, but an understanding for our community and our district around what happens when there's a cluster in a school, what is the process that a district will follow in order to make sure that we are prioritizing safety and making any decisions that might need to be made with regards to classrooms or schools or communities. And then Tim Simmons, our Chief Communications Officer, provided an update on the current status of the WCPSS COVID-19 metrics dashboard, some changes that went live this evening in response to some questions that we've had from both board members and community to provide some additional information on that dashboard. The dashboard will continue to evolve as we learn and grow and know more and are able to figure out what kind of information and what the best way is to present that. So we encourage the community to provide feedback on that as well. And part of that metrics dashboard conversation also included a discussion on how to improve a couple of areas that also came up in Dr. Benjamin's 12 principles, in particular around contact tracing and communication with our county health partners and what the resources that we currently have in the district that are allocated in this area, and how we can make improvements to support really the need for timely and quick information in our schools, and so that our families, our staff members can feel the sense of confidence about understanding what is happening in their schools and how they need to respond. And that is something that we are currently working on with our county health department and with the ABC Science Collaborative to make sure that we continue to evolve those processes as well. And then the final reminder really is to encourage any of our families who are interested in accessing winter meal bundles from our Child Nutrition Services Department. We will be providing bundles to cover a week's worth of meals over the winter break for families. If you go to the WCPSS.net website and scroll down to free school meals, there is a link there that will take you to a page where the very first announcement has a link for where you can sign up to pick up these meals and information that you need. So we encourage you, if you're interested in some winter break meal bundles, to access that information. And those are my updates.
Thank you, Superintendent Moore, for those updates. All right, moving along, we also have a finance item on our information items. So at this time, David Nieder and Mark Winters will come and share with us the report from the Audit Committee as well as a draft of the comprehensive annual financial report. Mr. Nieder and Mr. Winters.
Thank you, Chair Sutton. Thank you, Chair Sutton, Superintendent Moore, and board members. Each year, we have an external financial audit firm conduct a comprehensive review of the Wake County Public School System financial statement. The review for fiscal year end June 30th, 2020, is now complete except for finalizing the single audit portion of the audit. This final step is why we are presenting the financials in a draft format tonight. We will provide more information on the status of the audit during the presentation. Tonight you will hear from the chair of the Board Audits Committee and also from our audit firm. And following their presentations, I'll share highlights of the report as an information item. Dixon Hughes Goodman presented the financial report to the Audit Committee on November 19th. This is the third year of a 3-year renewable contract with Dixon Hughes Goodman recommended by the Audit Committee and approved by the Board of Education. All the requirements of this committee are found in Board Policy 8810. We're one of the few school systems nationally, and to our knowledge, the only school system in North Carolina with an established audit committee. Tonight, we have Audit Committee Chair Sarah Martin to share the Audit Committee report on the financials. Following Ms. Martin, Tyler Beatty, a Senior Audit Manager with Dixon Hughes Goodman, will present a summary of the audit from the perspective of the external auditors. And I will turn it over to Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Good evening. As Mr. Winters mentioned, my name is Sarah Martin, and I chair the Audit Committee for the Wake County Public School System Board. And I am here this evening to report about the Audit Committee meeting that Mr. Winters mentioned. It was on Thursday, November the 19th at 9 a.m. Ms. Cash is the representative from the board that serves on our Audit Committee. And she, along with our Audit Committee members, heard a presentation by our audit firm, Dixon Hughes Goodman, and they went over the results of the audit. I am pleased to tell you that it sounds like the audit went very well. I won't steal all the thunder from our presenter from the audit firm on that, but I will let you know that the Audit Committee did approve the audit, and we look forward to the finalization of all of the reports after the completion, which should hopefully be in the not too distant future. So at this point, just wanted to let you know that our Audit Committee feels good about where we stand currently, and we hope that the remainder of the board will feel that way as well after you hear the report. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Mr. Winters.
Okay, and now we're ready for Tyler Beatty from Dixon Hughes Goodman.
Looks like he's having some audio problems. We're working through that now.
And this is Josh from Dixon Hughes Goodman.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
All righty. If it makes you feel any better, I tested this before I got on and it worked, so I apologize for the quick inconvenience. This is technology for us all. But as I mentioned, my name's Tyler Beatty. I'm a senior manager with Dixon Hughes Goodman. My colleagues who jumped in and saved the day there for a second. Josh Puryear, who's a manager with DHG, is also in the meeting, as well as April Bell, who's a partner on the audit engagement for Wake County Public Schools. I'd like to start out the presentation by thanking Mark, Robin, and the entire team for the help they've provided during this year's audit. Obviously, this year has had hurdles unlike any other, primarily related to COVID. And, because of COVID, the audit was performed entirely remote this year. Next slide, Robin. So today what we're going to do is we're going to walk through an audit status update. We will review the planned communications to the board, which is the smaller separate report that you'll receive once we've wrapped up in addition to the CAFR. We'll review some financial highlights from financial information that's been pulled from the CAFR, and then we'll do a quick review of the compliance audit. Next slide. So as Mark mentioned, we have not wrapped up the audit yet, and that's the reason we're presenting in draft form right now. The audit documentation, it has been through all the necessary internal reviews from our side, including our engagement quality review. The reason we're unable to release right now is because the CARES Act funding that the board received in fiscal year 2020 was identified as a major program. So it's subject to compliance testing in accordance with the uniform guidance. And as a part of that testing, there are certain compliance supplements that's provided by the Office of Management and Budget, or the OMB, that dictates what testing we have to do related to those programs. Currently, we haven't received that compliance supplement from the OMB yet. When this presentation was presented on November 19th, the update that we had was to expect it by the end of November, which we've obviously missed that date. So we've learned today that the OMB is currently, their new deadline is by the end of the holidays, and hoping to see it as early as next week. So once we receive that compliance supplement from the OMB, we'll plan to complete our testing and proceed forward to release. Next slide. So the planned communications report to the board. So this is that short bound report that you'll receive at audit release in addition to the CAFR. And this report just includes various aspects of the audit process that we're required to communicate to the board. The primary components of this report would include any significant estimates or sensitive disclosures, and we've identified those as being the useful lives of your depreciable assets, your capital assets, and then the proportionate share of your pension and OPEB liabilities related to the TSERS plan and the OPEB plan. If we had any difficulties or disagreements during the audit process, we would communicate those here in this report. We're pleased to announce that we didn't have any difficulties or disagreements with management during the course of the audit. If there were any uncorrected misstatements that were identified during the audit process, we would also communicate those in this report. We didn't have any uncorrected misstatements that were identified during the course of the audit. And lastly, we'll attach a management representation letter that was signed by management in accordance with the audit. And it'll be attached to this report so you can see what representations were given to us during the course of the audit. Next slide. All right, so this is some financial highlights. So what we've done, instead of having you tab through the actual CAFR draft, we've tried to pull out relevant information and not only include fiscal year 2020 information, but include the prior 2 years as well for comparative analysis. So this slide is the general and other restricted state and federal revenues for 2020, 2019, and 2018. And this slide gives you a good visual representation of each funding source for the prior 3 years. So the bar on the very left, that represents your general and restricted fund revenues, which is your Fund 2 and Fund 8. You'll notice that in fiscal year 2020, it increased around $48.9 million when compared to 2019. Of this increase, though, $14.1 million of it was CARES Act money that was passed through Wake County. And then the local appropriations from the county that's recorded in Fund 2 also increased $38.1 million. The primary decrease between your 2020 and 2019 revenues recorded in your general and other restricted fund was a decrease in approximately $6.8 million, and that was related to the energy savings obligation, that money that came in fiscal year 2019. So your middle bar, the middle bar is your state funding, and obviously you can tell this gives a good representation of how much the board relies on state funding for each fiscal year, and this is one of the primary reasons it's hard to budget for a school year until your state allocations are finalized. You'll notice that there was an increase of approximately $35 million in fiscal year 2020 when compared to the prior year. However, your personnel expenses in your state public school fund also increased $35 million. So there wasn't really any discretionary funding received from your state public school fund money, which is Fund 1 in fiscal year 2020, even though the slide is showing an increase. And then lastly, the small bar on the very right, this is your federal funding that's recorded in Fund 3. It increased right around $2.4 million. What this doesn't include, it doesn't include the COVID funding that was received through the CARES Act of $4.1 million, because that was received in Fund 8, as well as the CARES Act money that came through the state of approximately $4.1 million, as that was recorded in the state public school fund, which was Fund 1. And your entire schedule of federal awards can be found on page 131 of the CAFR, the draft CAFR. Next slide. All righty, so this slide is your expenditures by purpose, and it's as a percentage of your total general, state, and federal expenditures. So what this slide shows you is it gives you a good representation of where monies are being spent each year. You'll notice that the board has consistently spent right around 79% on instructional services, with the remaining 21% being spent on operational services. As auditors, we would expect consistency in these ratios from year to year, which obviously this slide indicates. Next slide. All righty. So this next slide, this details your general fund balance, which is your Fund 2 fund balance. You'll notice a significant increase in fund balance in fiscal year 2020, and it was primarily related to leadership's decision to halt a spending freeze that you put in place, and as well as there were less expenditures specifically related to the general fund because of COVID with schools being shut down. And then if you look on the expenditure side, expenditures actually increased $18 million when compared to the prior year for the general fund, but this was offset by increases in county appropriations. So your very left is your total fund balance, and then the middle is your available for appropriation. And the difference between the very left and the middle is the differences. Certain amounts of fund balances are restricted for inventory, stabilization by state statute, and other restriction for the energy savings obligation that we mentioned earlier. Next slide, Robin. And then lastly, this slide is your fund balance, and it's your fund balance as a percentage of total governmental expenditures. So obviously, as you noticed, your fund balance as a percentage of total expenditures has increased this year because of your increases in fund balance, but it hasn't increased at the same rate as dollar-wise because your expenditures also increase. And there's no state mandated threshold for fund balance for an LEA. Next slide, Robin. One more. All righty. So as mentioned earlier, in addition to the financial statement audit, we're required by government auditing standards to also perform a single audit or compliance audit. So you'll notice 3 different reports in the back of the CAFR in the compliance section. The first one being the Yellow Book report, and once again, we're required to evaluate the board's compliance with laws and regulations, contracts, agreements, and grant agreements. Included in that first opinion in the CAFR is what's known as our Yellow Book report, which summarizes the results of this. In our Yellow Book report, you'll note that we've currently not identified any findings. We're also required to evaluate the board's compliance with federal programs that are deemed to be major. In the current year, we noted the Title I program and the Coronavirus Relief Fund, which was considered major and was required to be audited. As of December 1st, we have noted no findings related to these major programs. Next slide, Robin. And then lastly, we're also required to evaluate the board's compliance with state programs that are deemed to be major. We noted 3 programs this year which were considered major and were required to be audited. It was the State Public School Fund, which is required to be audited every year, the driver training program, and COVID-19 supplemental funds. Once again, we haven't identified any findings related to this program as of December 1st today as we're presenting. And that's all I have, so we'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, sir. Board members, any questions, comments on the audit report, draft audit report? Mr. Hegarty.
Mr. Sutton, we're throwing out this term CAFR a lot. That's compliance audit financial report, or is it something else?
Comprehensive annual financial report.
Comprehensive annual financial report. All right, thank you.
Ms. Kushner.
Thank you, Chair Sutton. And it was referenced page 131 of the report, but we do not have the independent auditor's report as part of this. So is that what it will be forthcoming?
So Ms. Kushner,
Thank you, Mr. Winters.
If you'll look in the financial report that we left on the table, 133 and 134 will be the schedule of the financial awards. And I'm going to take you through the book quickly to sort of orientate everybody to the book. So if there's any questions, we can take those for the auditors, or I can start.
Okay, I see no other questions from board members, so you can go ahead and start.
Okay, I'll try to quickly go through this. I'm going to present similar information, but it will sort of orient you to the books and allow you to see where you can find the information. So, first of all, I'd like to thank all those involved in the audit this year, the finance and budget staff, the internal audit, Dixon Hughes Goodman, and the audit committee. For those who do not know, the audit committee is an independent group of CPAs, ex-CPAs, attorneys that review this for us, and it gives us an outside source before we bring it to the Board of Education. As always, I want to give a special thanks to Robin Presley. I usually ask Robin to stand. She is sitting in her office and running this presentation right now. She generates all the schedules and organizes the document and verifies that all the numbers tie. Very few school systems generate their own financial statement. And I will say her timing isn't great because she's not able to be in the boardroom. Robin Presley is retiring. Very disturbing to me. We have worked together many, many years, and while I congratulate Ms. Presley, I have not agreed to be happy for her yet. Okay, so tonight, as I mentioned, I'm going to go through the draft CAFR. We'll talk about the single audit section, the statistical section, general fund financials, and review the fund balance. This report is considered a draft. We don't have the opinion letters. Our goal is to always have an unmodified opinion. If we do not have those letters yet, we have no findings, which would lead to an unmodified opinion if they do not have any findings in the final single audit, which we're open for. But we will share this document in some manner to you once it is complete and we have the full single audit document. So, to go through the document, just to tell you where items are. We start with the introductory section, which includes a letter of transmittal, which provides information on the county, school system, and the audit process. On pages, and these are Roman numerals 8 and 9, you'll see the board received the Award of Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Association of School Business Officials and the Government Finance Officers Association. This is the 31st consecutive year the board has received these awards. And did I mention that Robin was retiring? Disturbing. The financial section includes management discussion and analysis beginning on page 5, summarize the financial performance for the fiscal year. Financial reports begin on page 14, and they have detailed statements of revenues and expenditures and balance sheets for all funding sources and include financial footnotes. The statistical section begins on page 88, includes global information about the school system and the county. Schedules associated with the county are directly from Wake County Government Financial Report, and this summarizes much of the data within the financial section. And then the single audit section, which is really the section that we are missing tonight, except for a couple of items. So if we'll go to the next slide. So you've heard the status of the single audit section. We have to wrap up the review of the federal funding. But if you'll turn to page 134 in that section, you'll see some blank pages. If you'll turn to 134, if you look on page 134, at the top of the page, you have a pass-through grantor's number. As you go about halfway down the page, you see a 125. That is program 125. This is federal money passing through the state for coronavirus relief fund. that we used for child nutrition, $4 million last year. The next line item is 373, that's program 373. That is federal funding passed through Wake County government of $14.1 million. This is the funding we use to purchase computers. And then down near the bottom of the page, you see program 154, $3.8 million. That is funding that we received from the state of North Carolina directly. This was actually excess funding they had in their budget. This was not federal funding that the governor decided to distribute to school systems. Okay, if we'll turn to the statistical section, and if you'll go to page 98 and 99, this schedule provides per pupil expenditures for the fiscal year. The column on the far right of 99 is the total per pupil expenditures, including operating and capital expenditures. Two columns to the left of the total per pupil is the total operating cost. If we stop building and renovating schools today, this would be the costs associated with operating the school system. Mr. Beatty mentioned that 79% of the total operating expenditures were instructional. That's on your far left. I also want you to note the non-program charges. So on page 98, the right-hand column of $256. $247 of that $256 is the amount of money we spend on charter schools. So that is part of our per pupil expenditure because it's part of the funds that we spend with local dollars. So $247 is what we spend per pupil to make charter school payment. So if you look at the schedule below, in 2011, we were spending about $81 per pupil, and it was 1% of our total operating expenditures, and today it's $247 or 2.5%. So it has increased by 150% since 2011. You'll turn to page 97. Mr. Beatty mentioned this too for the revenue section. You'll see on the left-hand column you have the state, then county appropriation, then county improvements, and so on. The 10-year history, we received $1 billion, hard to say, $1 billion from the state this year. But I want you to notice student growth over the past 10 years has been 13%. Rate of inflation over the past 10 years has been 15.8%. State revenues increased 50%. But the majority of that is in salary and benefits. From 2011 to 2020, we've had the increase of 42%, which is slightly above growth in the rate of inflation. Non-personnel has only grown by 20%. So we're actually losing money to growth in inflation. And then finally, health insurance and retirement matching payment, 103%. Since 2011 to 2020, our revenues have changed by a little over $300 million. $109 million of that has just been health insurance and retirement matching costs. This health insurance and retirement matching also has to be paid for local employees too. So the local funds are required to match this legislative salary and benefit. So we carry the burden of those increases. And I mean, legislative salary increases are good, benefits a heavy burden. And then, as I mentioned, in non-personnel, we're below the growth in inflation. So the local funding is also carrying that burden. All right, next slide. So if we go to page 95, we have our fund balance over the past 10 years. It's a different type graph over the past 10 years, but we did this with a reason to show you. If you look at the high fund balance years, you see they're back in 2012, 13, 14. That was during and right after the recession, where we received federal ARRA funding that help support the school system, and we intentionally save those fund balances to protect our budget as we move forward. And you see again this year, a sharp movement upwards, where we also received some additional funding either through the county or federal government or the state that help protect our funding to a certain degree. I will say that there's a note that looks a little odd. If you look at your assigned fund balance, that really is exactly how it reads in our CAFR, but really the assigned fund balance is assigned with the prior year's budget. So when you see the $8.6 million on page 95 as subsequent years expenditures, that is our assigned fund balance. That is supposed to be 50% of 2019's fund balance of 11 million. So we put in more than 50%. So if you sort of move those dots on this graph to the left for assigned fund balance, you'll see where we roll with our current fund balance that is unassigned. We'll talk a little bit more about fund balance in just a minute. Okay, next slide. So if we go to page 68 in the book, this is the general fund financial statement. So yes, we received additional funds from the county during the year. What did decrease was our other funds, our fines and forfeitures, our parking fees, and those items. They reduced by $1 million from the prior year. And you remember during our budget session this year, these funds are going to reduce. They reduced in this year's budget also. We know that we are not going to receive revenues for parking fees or fines and forfeitures will not be as high as they have been in the past. If you turn the page, you go down to page 70. If you look almost at the bottom of the page, you see a line item excess of revenues over expenditures. So we had excess revenues over expenditures for this year of $26.4 million. And the net change in fund balance, several figures down, is $26.6 million. It gives a total fund balance this year of the $90.8 million. So if we go to the next slide. So the main reason that we had an increase in fund balance by that amount due to the spending restrictions that we put in place in April. I mean, for several years, we've had different types of spending restrictions. We just made them tighter in the month of April. And then also due to school closure, we had savings. And the major categories of savings, electricity, it's $5.9 million, contract transportation fuel. And then, of course, we do our best to maximize our state budget and use the state budget for all the positions that we can in the school system. And by doing that throughout the year, and this usually shows up in your over-under report, we had a maximization of teacher salaries where we saved $5 million. All right, next slide. So next item we want to talk about is fund balance. And we'll go to page 17 on this one. So I want to speak to a moment about the categories of fund balance. You know, sometimes fund balance is confused. So if you look on page 17 in the first column, the next to last number in the first column is the $90.8 million we have discussed for fund balance. This consists of categories beginning with the non-spendable inventories and prepaid expenditures. The inventory category includes the end-of-year balances for areas such as maintenance, instructional warehouse, and transportation. Transportation keeps their fuel in an inventory. At the end of the year, we had almost $4 million of fuel in inventory. You saw the savings that we received last year in inventory, but we had also bought in bulk, as we do with low prices. We buy bulk fuel and store it, but we had inventory in transportation. These are inventory categories where the funding hasn't been spent and is not available for use. The next section is restricted which includes accounts receivable, funds owed to the system but not collected at the end of the year, and carry forward encumbrances. Those are purchase orders for items that were originally purchased in June and either we had not been invoiced or the work was not completed until the next year. And we also have an energy savings obligation, which is restricted funds to be used for expenditures associated with the energy savings project. Again, these funds in this category are restricted by state statute and not available to the board for use. As you continue down the column, the next section is assigned fund balance. I'll come back to special projects in a moment, cover the other categories first. The insurance line of $13.8 million includes the school system self-insurance for dental and workers' compensation and a reserve for liability and property claims and premiums. This reserve was established to cover potential claims below the plan's deductible limit. We've increased our deductible over the year to maintain an affordable premium. Our current deductibles range from $25,000 for property damage to $250,000 for liability claims, and this is on a per-claim basis. The $1.6 million in the flexible benefit plan represents the balance of funds collected from employees and not spent to date for medical and dependent care flex account. And the $8.6 million of subsequent year expenditures are obligated to balance the budget in this year's current budget. This amount above the board policy requirement, as I mentioned before, this was $8.6 million of, and we had $11 million available from the previous year. So this was above the board policy, and when you approve the budget, you waive the policy. Final category under assigned fund balance is the reserve for special projects at $19.2 million. Included in this balance are annual items reserved such as operating dollars allotted to new schools for opening, funds to reimburse the state for salary exception reconciliation. Additional funds were set aside for carryover textbook funds in the local fund. A reserve to protect against any pension liability associated with contribution-based cap law, reserve for student membership reconciliation, and a reserve to provide a substitute teacher in each school. In addition, funds were set aside to provide a one-time bonus for all employees. Tonight on the action agenda is a request to appropriate $17.6 million of the special projects in a combination with insurance reserve to cover immediate needs. Reserves such as pension spiking will remain in fund balance until needed. Again, all assigned fund balance categories are committed to a purpose and restricted for use. A footnote with additional detail on these items can be found on page 56. We started listing out our special projects and working with the county, they had asked that we do something like that. So, final category in fund balance is the unassigned at $35.2 million. These funds are available to the Board of Education to appropriate for a specific purpose. Best practices recommending using the funds for one-time expenditures or in emergency situations. Appropriation for recurring expenditures will place the board at risk in the next budget. So we calculate our numbers just a tad different than Mr. Beatty, but they're very similar. The $35.2 million equals $1.9 million of our total operating expenditures in the manner in which we calculate it, and that's in the MD&A, management discussion and analysis. The average daily operating costs based on the 1920 budget is close to $7 million a day, which means the unassigned fund balance of $35.2 million is approximately 5 days operating. Now, per board policy 8101, the unassigned fund balance of $35.2 million is 6.7% of this year's county appropriation. Board policy states that any item over 6%, any funding over 6% should be returned to the county, but there's an action item on the agenda tonight requesting that you waive the policy. So, That concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions. I think the auditors are still online and Robin Presley is online. We'll be glad to answer anything we can.
Thank you, Mr. Winters. Take a couple of questions. Mrs. Scott.
Thank you. I have one quick question. Forgive me for not being more familiar with this, but in the restricted categories for the fund balance, can someone point to me which state statute to look to that where that can be found? I know that even if it doesn't happen right now, I know someone has to dig through a little bit to just so I can know, to take a look at that piece of legislation to just better understand the language in that.
Robin, do you want to speak to that quickly, or is it may not be something you have to respond quickly, or even Tyler?
I mean, I certainly can't list off the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it was just something
I think it's General Statute 143C-2.
Is that reference? This is April, the audit partner. Is that North Carolina General Statute number referenced in the note to the financial statements?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up. I couldn't quite understand the question.
I was asking if that...
Miss Scott? It's on
Ms. Scott, could you restate your specific question again?
Absolutely. When on slide 10, talking about the state statute that restricts how some of the fund balance, how that is used, or it just mentioned, that state statute restricts that. And I was just curious which state statute.
Okay.
April mentioned this, and she broke up, so you couldn't hear. On page 32 of the notes, it references the general statute. It's the second paragraph up from the bottom.
Thank you so much for that.
I wanted to just sort of check with our newer board members. I know, Ms. Carter, this is a lot of information to sort of digest in your first meeting, and Mr. Hegarty, you had a couple of questions just about the CAFR. At this point, sometimes you probably don't even know what to ask in terms of questions and trying to understand.
It would be nice if we had some time to digest it, and then maybe at a future budget committee meeting we could come back and ask some questions.
Yeah, that's fine, and that's really why I present it in the way I do, is to get you familiar with it. I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, but I'm showing you where you can find items, and then if you have questions, you're more than welcome to bring them back to us.
I did want to just sort of walk through the process again a little bit. We're not seeking any approval from the board or vote from the board on anything tonight. And Mr. Winters, correct me as I kind of walk through this. We typically do this a little bit earlier in the year in terms of the presentation of the CAFR and the audit. That is usually done a little bit before now, and the audit is part of the CAFR. But I think in the presentation you heard that because we're waiting on some of the guidance from OMB and how, in terms of how we use the CARES money, we've not been able to complete the audit because
Yes,
of that. So that is slowing down the process just a little bit, because normally at this time the audit is complete, and you've heard the 32 years, I think it was 32 in terms of our having an unqualified opinion, and we don't foresee any changes coming there because there were no findings. But because the audit has been delayed because of some of the federal stuff around the CARES money, the process is a little bit slower. So I just want to make sure that part was clear and understood.
Yes, sir. So we're roughly 2 weeks behind normal. We usually bring it to you in the second meeting in November. was delayed because we were waiting. We were waiting to see if we received the guidelines from the federal government. We will finish the auditors will finish the single audit when they receive those guidelines. At that time, if there is a finding, we would bring it back to the audit committee and back to the Board of Education. If there is not a finding, financials are basically complete. It's the final audit piece that we're waiting on. So numbers in the books should not change. Tyler, I see you're on. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, Mark. No numbers would change, but the reason that the audit is still outstanding is because we have to have the compliance supplement in order to ensure that we're doing the appropriate testing over that CARES Act money. And to a point made earlier, yes, typically the LGC audit deadline is October 31st. So in years past, we've always hit that deadline and are usually presenting the first or second week in November to you guys. This year, the LGC has extended the audit deadline because of these COVID delays to January 31st, 2021. And it's probably also important to know that the LGC isn't currently accepting any audits that has CARES Act money that's been identified as a major program. So we're all in the same boat. We're waiting on the OMB for the compliance supplement, and as soon as we receive that, we will be able to finish our procedures and opine on the CAFR and the compliance section of the CAFR.
And I'm assuming as the board is, in terms of its fiscal responsibility, the fiscal agent, if that changes or we don't submit by the 31st, you will let us know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
It's probably important to note that I don't foresee any circumstances where the January 31st deadline wouldn't be met unless the COVID compliance supplement is continued to be delayed, in which case I think that the LGC would be proactive in extending that January 31st deadline.
Right. Okay. Dr. Martin.
Thank you. First, a very quick tiny, I was glancing through the introduction. On page 2, you might want to note that school boards are elected for 2 years, not 4-year terms. We hope to get that changed, but you might want to make that correction. To the earlier point, this document really is our reference in terms of what the board does. We don't have any input into this, but this is our reference as we do the budget work. So if we want to look at what's been happening over the years and so on, that's where this becomes the input that we use for thinking about the budget. In that light, Mr. Winter, your comments on slide 5 about the percentage charter schools, if I could, I'd like to clarify what you've done here with the $247 per pupil. That's not $247 that goes per pupil in the charter schools, but that's $247 for each Wake County public school student that goes to charters. The charters get the same dollar value of the local funding per pupil that a Wake County public school student gets. Correct?
Yes, sir. So think of it this way. The total operating expenditures per pupil of $9,971 is all funding sources.
Correct.
The state, federal, local. The 247 is the expenditures that we have paid out to charter schools divided by our total number of students.
Correct.
So it is a piece of that $9,971.
But again, just for the public, I think it's important to recognize this isn't per pupil of a charter student. This is each and every Wake County public school student is basically paying that, for lack of a better term. Importantly, too, then, the dollars that go to the charter that are included in this number are only the per capita share of the local appropriation. Charter schools get funding directly from the state. So if we looked at the percentage of dollars going to charters of the local dollars, Now we're closer to 8% instead of this 2.5%. So again, I just want to highlight that because I think it's really important for us to think about the magnitude of the impact, because the charters are getting state dollars in addition to the local dollars that are provided, that are indicated here. Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to make sure that that was clarified.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Kushner.
Thank you. And later on in the agenda, we are voting on appropriations for some special projects, and it doesn't quite line up with what's on page 56. So if I could get some clarification, there are 3 items that are the same as on the item that we're voting on later on tonight, but then the insurance piece, if you could, someone could explain that a bit more in detail to us, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so let's see. So the insurance is a reserve that we have set aside for workers' comp. And since we're self-insured with workers' comp, we have a large number of prior year claims because we don't, we may have a workers' comp claim from 2018 that we've reserved that we have to pay out over this year. So we are not distributing all the funds out of the workers' comp reserve. And we also are not distributing all funds out of liability claim reserve. We're appropriating only the funds we need right now. Because if we appropriate all the funds out and we do not use those funds, it's just excess dollars that are sitting in our budget at the end of the year, and they'll roll right back into
Ms. Kushner, and putting it in certain other words, what Mark reviewed with you as he reviewed the CAFR, he gave the board an overview of all of the areas in fund balance, including all of the areas that are in unassigned fund that are effectively available. And tonight, later in your action, we're only asking you to appropriate some of those. The rest will remain in fund balance.
Thank you.
Until required.
Ms. Johnson-Hosmer.
While we're on that page, either Mr. Dieter or Mr. Winter, and again, thank you all for your institutional knowledge, which is also helpful in this conversation as well. As you can imagine, this comes up every year, and that's regarding textbooks. And so that is also, while we're on that page, if you could also address the textbooks line item.
So textbooks are funded by the state. We had an opportunity a few years ago where we could use state textbook money in other areas, and we would take local dollars and put the textbook budget in local dollars, use state funds to be able to transfer to use them in other ways, again, maximizing our funds. Well, a few years ago, the state came back, not allowing that transaction to happen. At the time, we probably had about $5 million in local dollars for textbooks. So what we have done each year is we spend the state textbook money first. If we need additional funds, we have used local dollars, and then we carry forward that balance in textbooks on an annual basis. So this is what is remaining in local textbook dollars right now.
And can you speak to why we have carryover in textbook every year?
We spend the state dollars. We spend the majority of the state dollars on an annual basis. This is actually, we're using much of this money for professional development, I believe, because that was taking out of the state's plan a few years ago that we could use textbook money for professional development.
And
let me try to explain this.
Okay.
So a few years ago, we had a lot of flexibility with state textbook dollars. We always used our full textbook allotment, but we did it out of local dollars so that we could exercise the flexibility in the state funding that generated savings in other places. So we've never not used textbook dollars for textbooks. That's one piece. But we did it out of local dollars instead of state dollars. Once that flexibility went away, we had a residual amount that was about $5 million that we have had a plan for over the years to begin to spend it down until it's gone. And so every year, the amount that is unspent remains in fund balance because there is like a 5-year plan to spend it down. So it's money that was garnered as savings that were in local dollars from years ago, and we had a flexibility that we no longer have, and we're just trying to be really prudent about how long we can make it last.
Thank you. I was giving you the eye, Ms. Moore, like, please finalize this whole conversation, because it's a conversation we have often about where we are with textbooks and the lack of flexibility. And of course, as we all know, even now more so than ever with virtual school, we have parents asking about textbooks. So I think it's important to note that there is not flexibility. And so our 5-year plan and being prudent is to the district's benefit rather than spending it all, noting that we won't have the flexibility for what we need. And also given the number of students we have, the usage of books, how books are outdated. I mean, there's a list of things, but I think it's important because that's a topic that comes up every year that's worth us explaining to the public each year regarding textbooks. So thank you, all three of you, very much. And as I Mr. Winter have been teasing each other since I talked to him about trying to outbid him on PPE. We both were going through our audit at the same time, and I just want to continue to Mr. Winter's point regarding the longevity of the staff and the work that they do. It is an insurmountable task for those of you who don't deal with finances to have a clean audit with this much money. And so I cannot stress enough how grateful I am to having a very judiciously and responsible staff who work on our budget and ensure that when we go through our audit, that the auditors walk away thus far, and ever since I've been on the board, with a clean audit. I assure you, no disrespect, but auditors are always looking for the little thing, and I'm always pleased that does not happen at Wake County Public Schools. So thank you all for your work, and Ms. Cash for serving on the committee, and all of the independent committee members who support and ensure that our board remains a fiduciary responsible board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson-Hostler. Mrs. Cash.
Yeah, just a piggyback on that, I do appreciate. I mean, it is pretty impressive to see we've had 32 to 35 years of impressive awards. And I'm sorry to see Robin Presley leave. I appreciate all that hard work. That's unbelievable, the type of kudos we got for the work that you've done. So thank you so much for that. And hopefully Mark Winters and Terry Kimsey doesn't think that retirement is a good idea. And so
I second that, Ms. Cash.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so don't get any ideas, but thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, we will move forward. Again, thank you. Any other questions we'll entertain during a subsequent Budget and Finance Committee. So again, I want to thank the audit team, all the auditors, and the staff for, again, putting together a very comprehensive document. And we certainly appreciate that, as Ms. Johnson-Hostler and other board members have attested to. So again, thank you all for that.
Thank you.
All right. With that, that takes us to our consent agenda. If I can entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I move that we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
I had a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda for this evening. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Consent agenda is approved. That takes us to our action agenda for this evening. We've got a couple of finance items since we just finished that discussion. So those include a waiver of board policy, and then the fund balance appropriation, and a couple of other items. And so at this point, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Nieder.
Thank you, and good evening, Chair Sutton, members of the board, and Superintendent Moore. As you just heard during Mark Winter's presentation of the draft comprehensive annual financial report, that as of June 30, 2020, the unassigned fund balance was at a level of $35.2 million. and that this represents an increase over the prior year's unassigned fund balance. And that June 30 amount represents 6.7% of the 2021 year county appropriation. That increase year over year was driven by both COVID-related operating cost savings last year, as well as Mr. Winters shared an intentional expenditure set of restrictions put into place, mainly in central services. The increased amount of unassigned fund balance is intended to be used to manage through next year's funding uncertainty and potential future unfunded and unbudgeted pandemic-related expenditures. It may also be used as a tool to manage through the known funding shortfalls we will have as we begin developing next year's operating budget. And you heard from Mr. Winters, we should not ideally use fund balance to cover recurring expenditures, but if push comes to shove, this gives us the opportunity if there's no other source. I want to remind the board that the increase in county appropriation for the current year is non-recurring, and that was $12 million, and that our current year base budget was balanced partially on a series of reductions, mostly for contracted services based budget, and they were made this year without significant impact on our operation due to not providing services during a portion of the year. If we are in full swing next year, that will be a different story as it relates to impact. So, Board Policy 8101 directs that the board maintain an unassigned fund balance no more than 6% of the subsequent year's county appropriation, and that any amounts in excess of that be returned to the county. We are asking the board's consideration of approval of waiving Board Policy 8101 such that the full $35.2 million of unassigned fund balance be maintained as a tool to manage through future economic uncertainties, as well as the known shortfalls we are going to have into the next fiscal year. And I now ask the board's consideration of approval to waive this component of Board Policy 8101.
Mrs. Cash.
I'd like to make a motion that we waive that policy 8101 in order to keep the 6.7% in fund balance.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve staff's request to waive Board Policy 8101. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, show by a sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Waiver of Board Policy 8101 is approved. Now to the fund balance appropriation.
Okay. Yes. Next is the request to appropriate fund balance that has been specifically reserved for a number of special projects. You heard these as well during Mr. Winters' presentation. And we are requesting tonight a fund balance appropriation in the amount of $17,676,641 that has been reserved. And if I could, Ms. Kushner, to your previous question, if you were to go back to page 18, you'll see there's a total reserve in the special project line of, page 17, of $19.3 million. So just out of that special project line item, we're requesting $17.6 million of the $19 million. And you'll see the other items included within that $19 million line item detailed on page 56, and that may help explain that. Of this $17.6 million request to appropriate, $450,000 is to be used to provide funding to our self-insured workers' comp program for locally funded employees. $1,090,000 is to provide funding beyond what is in the current year budget for our property and liability insurance coverages. We don't know exactly what our current year premiums are going to be at the time we develop the budget, and they did come in higher. $11,641 is to provide funding for paying our state salary reconciliation. $2.5 million to provide funding for additional teaching staff as needed to meet class size requirements and other ADM reconciliation related needs. $3 million is to provide each school with an additional substitute teacher each day to assist in managing teacher absences that would otherwise be managed by school administration or other school staff, largely due to the timing of when the absence is known and the capacity to get or the incapacity based on timing to get a substitute. And the final item making up the $17.6 million is a $10.625 million request to provide funding for a one-time bonus for all staff, if approved. The approval of that one-time bonus is your next item on the agenda, and I want to make sure you understand by approving this appropriation request, you're not approving the bonus. You're solely allowing the funding to be moved from unassigned fund balance to the operating budget. So if the board does approve the recommended one-time bonus, funding would be available. So those are the special projects included within this request for appropriation. And again, I will now ask the board's consideration of approval of this unassigned fund balance appropriation request.
Ms. Cash.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and appropriate $17.676,641 fund balance.
Second.
Got a motion by Ms. Cash, second by Dr. Martin to approve the appropriation request for the $17.6 million for the fund balance. Is there any discussion? Ms. Cash.
Well, the substitute teacher, what does that entail as far as each school?
So we've asked each school to go ahead and secure, they have the ability to secure a sub without having a vacancy yet, so that they always have someone on standby no matter what happens at the school. It may not always work out that way, but that's the intent, is to ensure that they have the ability to even request prior to knowing that they have an absence, so that they have flexibility as absences come in or if they need that person during the course of the day.
Thank you.
Ms. Scott.
And to add on to that, I realized that this substitute teacher is to be used in this way is something that's in response to COVID now, but I want to use this opportunity to share that I know I'm not the first person to say how beneficial it would be to have an assigned substitute teacher at each school who is just in that building regardless, available for substitute teaching, to continue building relationships with students, and what a valuable resource that would have. So I just had to put that in there right now to add that absolutely as we move forward looking at these types of things, that's something we continue to consider. And thank you for the work for making sure we're getting this for our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor show by a sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Fund balance appropriation request is approved. Next item on our finance piece is the request for a staff bonus.
And Mr. Sutton, I'm going to ask our Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, Dr. A.J. Mutillo, to present this item to the board.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, members of the board. Superintendent Moore, Chair Sutton. I'm here to request approval for a one-time $500 bonus for all active benefit-earning employees who are employed with the system as of this evening, December 1st. The bonus would serve as an acknowledgement of all of our hardworking employees within the district who have really had to step up and either take on different responsibilities, like many of our child nutrition staff and bus drivers, or our teachers whose positions may have remained technically the same, but have had to adapt in their jobs in very different ways this year. We're recommending this bonus, also acknowledging that while the state passed legislation so that the certified staff and assistant principals received their planned step increase, and certified staff did receive a $350 bonus from the state, The state has not legislated compensation increases for non-certified staff, school principals, central services employees. We wish we could do more. This proposed one-time bonus provides an opportunity for us to acknowledge the value all our employees bring to our school system. And thank you for your consideration of this request.
Glad to make a motion enthusiastically to support this bonus. We have noted the heavy lift that many of our employees, from teachers to nutrition workers, have done during this time. $500 is a mere token, but mere tokens turn into $10 million. So enthusiastically, I make a motion to support this effort.
Second.
Got a motion by Dr. Martin and a second by countless others to approve a one-time staff bonus of $500. Is there any discussion or further discussion? Ms. Carter.
Yes, I support showing respect and appreciation to all of our employees. I just ask for maybe in the future, if something like this is going to occur, that we consider giving what I call our frontline workers, those driving our students to school, those data managers, receptionists, custodians, CNS workers, teachers and instructional assistants are given a little bit bigger of a slice, shall we call it. I don't know other way to say it. But in future, I'd ask for that be considered. Thank you.
I appreciate that feedback, Ms. Carter.
And Dr. Matillo, if I understand correctly, this is a $500 one-time bonus to all of our 20,000 or so employees that are on the payroll as of today, December 1st, correct?
Yeah, I would say the majority, Chair Sutton. There are some, temporary employees, substitute kinds of positions that wouldn't be included, but any employee who earns any type of benefit, even a leave day as a benefit, would receive the bonus.
Okay. And I think Dr. Martin touched on it in terms of the total amount of this is approximately $10 million, $10.6 million.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor show by a sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it. The one-time staff bonus is approved. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
And our last item for finance and also includes an appropriation for athletic officials and booking fees. Dr. McFarland.
Yes. And this is our final action item for you under finance, and it's another fund balance appropriation request. And this request is directly rooted in the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The specific request is to appropriate $835,000 of fund balance into the operating budget to be used for the purpose of payment of booking fees and official fees for high school and middle school athletic events. Normally, these fees would be paid by the schools through their gate receipts for these events. But during this pandemic, while it is our desire to continue as many of these events as possible, it is albeit with limited or no fans and thus no gate receipts in place. Before I ask your consideration of approval, I will share with you that it is possible we will come back before the board as the year progresses with potential similar requests where we determine we have a program that is in part supported by a revenue stream that because of the pandemic, that revenue stream is not there. And we're desirous of finding a way to support it, continuing to find a funding source for that program, whatever it may be, that would normally have been there under normal times. So you may hear back from us on that. And with that, I will ask the board's consideration of approval of the request to appropriate $835,000 fund balance for the use of paying booking and official fees for athletic events this year.
I make a motion that we appropriate this funding for that athletic event.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the appropriation for athletic officials booking fees. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Scott.
I just had one comment, and I'd love a little bit of feedback if we could get it. I have received some feedback from folks who are concerned, who think that in doing this, that we are valuing athletics over this money perhaps being spent on academic resources. And I'd love either if any of my colleagues could discuss this, or if this could be addressed on where this funding is coming from in order to get this. I do personally support our athletics. I acknowledge how important they are. This is an opportunity for students who, for scholarship funding for the future. I fully believe in the camaraderie and all of the benefits, but I felt like I did need to express that because I heard from multiple constituents about concern for that.
Mrs. Cash?
I might want to mention that this is probably not, this is going to take care of their booking fees, but I understand your point, though. I agree. Athletic officials, but there is a lot more money that we aren't going to be giving them that take care of the maintenance of their fields, their uniforms. There is very little money that comes from the school system to an athletic department. So, I mean, this isn't paying for everything they're going to have to do this year, and which includes band and all that too, but I agree.
So, Ms. Scott, just to answer your question directly, these are savings, fund balance is savings that the board can appropriate at different times based on staff requests for emergency type needs, things that come up. And this is a definition of that in the sense that as of right now, we have an athletic program that will be run during the course of the year that will have expenses with a limited ability to actually pay for those expenses from the gate receipts that they normally have. To the other point that you made, Mr. Nieder was intentional in saying that we may need to come back to the board for other requests in other areas that are part of the school system's general daily life in schools, and we can immediately think of other areas that charge admission for different kinds of things that would generate a little bit of revenue to help support that programming. If we have schools that want to engage in some new virtual way of doing these programmings and events, but they're not having revenue, they may need some support as well.
And I would just add, as you alluded to, the importance of, extracurricular activities in the lives of many of our students, sports included, but would underscore that even though particularly football and basketball being your biggest sort of revenue generators or gate receipts, and at this time, on a normal calendar, we would have pretty much missed an entire football season, about half or so, a third or a quarter of the basketball season. I see this as a way to sort of help jumpstart, if you will, some of the gate revenues and receipts that are lost to help pay for the officials and the booking fees and take a little bit of the expense off of the schools to do that, and the booster clubs, which also provide much of that as well.
Let me just add one last piece. Schools will have to pay this no matter what. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to pay for the officials. They're going to have to pay the booking fees. But they don't have the revenues from which to pay it. So schools would be having to dig into other areas of their operation to find these dollars.
Johnson Osborne.
And you asked a very valuable question, especially as a parent of a child of the arts and not an athlete, although she's athletic. This is a constant conversation in my house about whether she's an athlete or not, because she's a dancer. But nonetheless, especially as a board member who felt very strongly about high schoolers, for me, athletics is it is an important part of scholarships and going to college. But for me, one of the things that I said when I made my case earlier this fall about not sending high schools back until we had some sense of there wouldn't be complete disruption in their daily schedule during this first semester. One of the things that I talked about in talking to the students was this is not just for students who participate in sports, but it is a part of their school culture. And again, hats off to the coaches and people who are trying to create a way that all of our schools are still virtually engaged. And so certainly for me, this is a part of their academics. I'm sure you you all are getting the same emails that I am from parents who are saying, hey, our high schooler grades are low. We've talked about this. What does this mean for athletics? Athletics is the thing, because like it or not, athletics is some of the things that is the driver for some students at this point in their life, because they haven't gotten to where academics is their favorite part of school. And so I think it's important for me to acknowledge that for our K-12 students and college students as well, but specifically middle school and high school, athletics is a part of their academic well-roundedness of their high school and middle school career. So I think it's important, and that's what I've responded to parents is I do believe this is an investment in our students' academics as well as it is in their athletics, and certainly echo my colleagues' points, which I did see. Broughton Dance is doing Giving Back Tuesday, so for those of you who are donating, please donate to the CAPS dance team, because all of our arts are trying to raise money to fill the gaps. But again, to Mr. Sutton's point, basketball and football are the revenue sources for those schools, and for many schools, it cleans up parking lots because they have parking, and so I think we can't underestimate the financial loss that schools are taking right now. But I also think it's important to note that I do believe that our sports and our arts are a part of our students' academic success.
Do I see any other thoughts on another hand? Okay. All right, there's no further discussion. All those in favor of the appropriation of athletic officials and booking fees, show by sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Request is granted.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us to our last item on our action agenda, and that is the request for our 2021-22 instructional calendars approval for the traditional, modified, and multi-track year-round calendars. Wade Martin.
Good evening, Chair Sutton, Superintendent Moore, and board members. Good to see you all again. As usual, with me this evening is Tamani Anderson-Powell, Director in our Magnet office and also the Chair of our Calendar Committee. This evening, as Chair Sutton just mentioned, we bring to you the proposed 2021-2022 instructional calendars for our traditional, modified, and multi-track year-round schools from the Calendar Committee. For the board as well as the public, just to remind everyone that our Calendar Committee does consist of principals from all calendar groups as well as all levels, a number of community members, teachers, and central office staff. Developed these drafts last fall in 2019. We met again this past October to reaffirm and review the decisions and discussions that were had back in 2019, because as we all know, a few things have changed since then. The Calendar Committee did receive input from senior leadership this past October, and then we shared these drafts of these proposed calendars with the board for input during the work session on November 17th. Earlier today in the work session, we again discussed some options related to our traditional calendar to examine the idea of allowing for a full 2-week winter break. Consensus was reached by the board to bring the revised calendar, identified in simply as the 21-22 traditional draft 2-week winter, as the recommended traditional schools calendar. The 3 proposed calendars for the 21-22 instructional count all contain 177 student days, as well as at least 1,025 instructional hours. They also meet all other requirements of the calendar law. As we noted earlier in the work session, we bring these instructional calendars to you this evening with the assumption that we will open the 21-22 school year under normal operation. By approving these calendars this evening, the district will have a baseline to build from should the board need to make adjustments based on evolving COVID conditions as we plan for the 21-22 opening. At this time, we seek board approval of these instructional calendars. Thank you.
Mr. Hegarty.
Chairman Sutton, I would move that we adopt the staff recommended changes to the calendars as proposed earlier today.
Got a motion and a second to approve the request or proposal for the 2021 academic calendars. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it, the 2021-2022 instructional calendars for the traditional, modified, and multi-track year-round calendars are approved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So at this time, can I entertain a motion to go into closed session?
Chair Sutton, I'll make a motion to go into closed session to consider confidential personnel information protected under GS 143-31811, A1, A3, and A6, as well as the information previously read in amending the board meeting, which is to consider confidential student information protected under GS 115C-402 and the Family Educational and Privacy Rights Act 20 USC 1232G.
Thank you for that. Is there a second? Got a motion and a second to go into closed session for the item stated on agenda and the item just read that was added to amend the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor show by a sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We are now adjourned and go into closed session. Thank you very much.